Let's have a look at something called Keeping Up with the Joneses and how this applies to dog culture. So, keeping up with the Joneses can be very problematic. It's a way to basically keep people poor. So, humans are hardwired to do this. But because of differences in our perception of wealth compared with that of others, participating in this can be costlier than we realize. In dog culture, the cost is the lives of our own humans and our own health. So part of this is when you see people spending money, you're assuming that they're wealthy. And the human brain wants to look like that. The human brain doesn't really start to critically look at the debt that you're going to create by doing that. So part of the problem is there's a gap between your self image and your social image. And so people tend to care about how they appear. So they're willing basically to do unwise spending to appear wealthy. And this creates this whole thing of the lack of information people have about others' debts. So if you see somebody with a bunch of nice stuff, you're thinking, wow, they're happy, they're rich. I don't just mean rich with money, but like rich with happiness and rich with family connections. However, they're not. They've had to give up family connections to get rich, to have all that stuff, and they actually have a lot of debts. So this is what Keeping Up with the Joneses is about. And check out this article. There's a lot of good information in here. It really helps explain how keeping up with the Joneses is a dangerous thing in our society. So now let me share this movie with you. This is from 2009. It's called The Joneses. In this movie, this family, these guys are here, they're not actually a family. Their job is to move into neighborhoods and then show off all of the name brand cool stuff that they have, and they make other people in the neighborhood feel guilty or feel like, hey, you don't look like a wealthy person because you don't have this stuff. It's a really good movie, like better than most movies that come out today. But really, the people that are in this family, they're fighting, they're arguing, they're not happy, but they're running around with super high dollar stuff. And their whole job is to convince other people to have that high dollar stuff, to guilt them into not taking care of their family properly with the high dollar stuff. And this is very prevalent in dog culture. If you have a dog, you get more and more stuff for it. You post it up on social media all the time. I gave my dog this kind of bath, this kind of hoodie, this kind of memory foam sleeping pad, etc., so on and so forth. So people see that and they think that you're happy, and so they go and do it. They go and buy more and more stuff for their dog, and of course, most of the problems that they have with their dog, they're not going to talk about it. They're going to more and more just tell you, look at all the love that my dog brought to me because I brought him to the store and bought him all this stuff. And now everybody else is feeling guilty because they haven't taken care of their dog. And that's a big part of this Keeping Up with the Joneses thing. And it's as a good primer to initiate yourself into understanding this. This is a good movie to check out. So one of the things that happens with Keeping Up with the Joneses, boats in storage. Some of these boats become ruined and derelict because people buy these boats to keep up with the Joneses, and then it's like, wow, man, we can't really maintain these boats and take care of them on our small little property. So what does that remind you of? Shelters with dogs constantly overflowing. People get dogs, they realize it's not a good fit, and then the dog goes to the shelter. Or they try to keep the dog and have a few puppies and try to make some money from it. But at the end of the day, we have overflowing shelters, overflowing rescue organizations, more and more packs of dogs in the street. Basically, they're being put off into storage because the people that got the dogs trying to keep up with the Joneses gave up on them. The same thing that happens with boats all over our country. And yeah, boat storage is seasonal and there's a lot more to it than that. But many of these boats are bought to keep up with the Joneses. The faster one, the better one. You better get a good wife, or I'm sorry, you better get a good boat, or your wife is going to not be impressed. Or your kids aren't going to look cool out on the lake, or you're going to look like a loser with your slow boat. And the same type of marketing and guilt and stuff like that happens in dog culture. Another thing about Keeping Up with the Joneses, they actually do this on purpose to us. There are so many of these pet influencers on Instagram. Their whole life, from the second they get up till when they go to bed, is parading these dogs around, spoiling them, dressing them up, giving them pieces of steak to eat, taking them to restaurants, treating them like kings and queens. And but they get paid for this. How can they get paid for that? Because it's marketing. Because that makes more people look at these Instagram influencers and they think, "Oh wow, you are so rich. You have everything so perfect and so happy." But these people are just dog influencers. They're just influencers that get paid to make you think that dog owning is just the best thing ever. And it's just about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about convincing you that you need to have bigger, better, longer leashes, more room for your dog, more raw meat diet for your dog. Here's a little screen from that movie I was recommending to you, The Joneses. This is the wife, and she's looking at her family members and checking how much influence they're doing out in the neighborhood. Getting people to buy the right type of watches, the right type of computers. You better take care of your sons and daughters the way that we do. But this whole story, they're mad at each other, they're angry at each other. Their family actually sucks. All the products that they own suck. And the David Duchovny character at the end of this movie, they end up breaking up, and it becomes like a love story, and they ditch all of this Joneses stuff that they're doing, and then they become happy. So it's kind of like that with dog culture. Like, we could be so much happier if we just ditch all of this over the top buying stuff for our dogs, buying stuff for our dogs. All it does is create anxiety and creates a ton of unnecessary expenditure and unhealthy obsession in our society. And the dog influencer thing, just kind of like veterinarian women, a lot of them don't freaking like it. There are some good videos on here about how this can be a crappy life being a dog influencer. You can't have a personal life. You're working for some giant conglomerate. You have to do your ads on Instagram the right way, or you're not going to get paid. You can't do too many of any certain ads. You can't use your dogs for other stuff. They basically live in this like communist lifestyle with their dogs, because if they don't, they're not going to get paid their influencer money. And it's like, well, where are the feminists? Where are the people that say women should be able to live a beautiful life and raise a family and have friends? They can't do that when they're these dog influencers. I'll let you look up some of these videos on yourself by yourself, because they're really long, and some of them are like sad, but it's all very interesting. And you hear people talk right now in the modern political scene and stuff. Women shouldn't have to work for some rich fat white man, right? But who do you think's paying these women to do all this ridiculous over the top dog worship? Yeah, it's some rich freaking conglomerate guy sitting up in the ivory tower raking in all this money because we're so foolish to spend all our time and money on dogs, and they take all our money from us. And the patriarchy, all these women that are doing all this stuff, getting quote unquote rich. Yeah, they're getting a lot of income pretending to be in love with dogs. But is their life really rich? Do they have beautiful human relationships? If you check out some of these videos, it seems like they don't. It's very similar to women that are put in executive jobs that they don't necessarily want to be into, and then later on they find themselves divorced and unhappy and lonely, because really they admit later on in life that they just wanted to like raise a family and be at home and teach their sons and daughters to cook. So so yeah, this pet influencer thing, it's not just this perfect thing that makes people rich. There's actually a lot of crap that goes along with it, just like groomers lung, and just like veterinarians, they have a high rate of suicide. And back to my little boat example, unwanted dogs all over the place. This is partly a result of this keeping up with the Joneses thing. People get on their Instagram, little 10-year-olds get on Instagram, and they see those women with their cleavage showing and their cool cars, and a bunch of cool bearded shirtless guys hanging around them pretending to love dogs. And so they get dogs, and then they realize they don't want them. They were tricked this whole time. More and more shelters overflowing, more and more stray dogs all over our country. Reminds me of the overflowing boat storage with derelict and broken down boats. So that has been our look at some problems of keeping up with the Joneses and why dog culture is also perpetrating this on us. See you guys later.